I have a couple of goals in my life. I think, there's a few things I want to do before I die. One, I want to fly on the Concorde. Two, I want to learn Japanese. Not that I care about Japan or anything or about their culture. It's just that I was at a Japanese restaurant and I saw this a-hole, obviously American, ordering in Japanese, and I wanted to do that. And the third thing I'd like to do, I want to visit the former Soviet Union.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and we are looking at the clip of the week. It's a new thing I want to try. Let's wrap up the week by promoting other shows that I think are good and deciding who had the best clip. Let's get competitive with it. I have absolutely rigged the competition by including the Letterhack's clip from Left Past 10. But oh my gosh, we're losing anyway. We've got one vote in, and it's for Brian Tyler Cohen. Well, that's fair. He's included for a reason. He does good work. But let's have a look at the clips we're looking at first and see how we feel. I'm going to jump right into it. This is... and I'm going to give commentary, of course. This is Dan from the Internet. I should probably record. All right, I'll record. This is Dan from the Internet's clip for our clip of the week. Here we go. All right, it's a clip of the week segment. We're starting off with Dan from the Internet and Ravana on Power Report. They were discussing what I think is going to be the unifying issue, by which I mean after we fully defeat the right-wing devils that are coming for democracy, after they have learned that we are many and we are mighty, and they want to come back to the grown-up world and actually talk about politics seriously and actually fix the United States. The uniting issue will be corruption, money in politics, rule by oligarch. We all hate that. We all despise that here. All of us who are not the oligarchs despise it. But only progressives are talking about it in terms of real numbers. And that is because only progressives are serious about actually doing something about it. Here's a couple of great progressives, Dan from the Internet and Ravana.
So what Unusual Rails did was they made a chart comparing how these different legislators and lawmakers performed compared to SPY, which is an index that matches the stock performance of the stock market. And so given that context, Brian Higgins, and so it's color coded by a political party. Go ahead.
For the record, Dan is laughing about that because Brian Higgins is a person whose campaign he donated to. He said earlier in the stream he was saying, "I donated to just one campaign, and this is what happened." A dear family member had a similar experience with Richard Nixon. It's easy to seem to say like, "Oh, Nixon was so bad." Now, but of course, going into the various elections he stole, they didn't have all the information. All they had was a candidate that said they were going to fix the environment, amongst other things. It happens. Don't feel too bad, Dan from the Internet. That said, I commend you for pulling up the numbers. Here's a guy, Brian Higgins, who is very unlikely to try to get money out of politics because he's making out like a bandit.
I was just going to say, Holy shit.
So Brian Higgins performed 238.9% better than the SPY, so like better than the stock market essentially. And so for folks who don't understand percentages, essentially 100% is doubling, so 200% is tripling. So
Holy fuck.
Brian performed 3 times better than the stock market.
For context, there are people who have made television careers in giving stock advice by simply performing a little bit better than the SPY. By having their investments in one particular year come out like 15% better. Brian Higgins, 238% better. If you are wondering why this happens, I think they explain it, but it comes down to the fact that when you are in charge of government contracts, as in, let's say, I know the government is going to pass legislation that will fund repairs across federal highways this year, and they're going to give it to X company. You can then turn around and invest in X company because you know they're about to get a massive influx of money. In fact, you can go one step further. If you already invested in a, let's say, cement selling company or laying company, whatever. I'm using very broad terms or a broad example here. You already have an investment in there, but you get to choose which company is going to be picked to do this big national multi-billion-dollar highway repair. Well, of course, you pick the one you're invested in, and then you watch your own bank account swell. The answer to this is to make it illegal for our representatives to trade stocks. It's that simple. A full ban on stock trading if you decide that you want to be a representative of the public. No more private thieving of wealth.
What committee is he on? I just need to Google that because I'm just curious. Like, is there anything on here that might make this sort of interesting? Oh, he's on the House Ways and Means Committee, so they handle the budget and the taxes. Oh, he's also on the House Committee of the Budget, so that's the government's budget. So, good thing he wouldn't have any advanced information on the budgets of the government or companies that have to, work with the government or contract with the government, or any news that might affect the stock prices of any such companies, because that would just be wrong.
That's fucking awesome. I love. Okay, it is so funny though because positions like banning stock trading from members of Congress from trading stocks, you'll find weird bedfellows like AOC will be introducing a piece of legislation with Matt Gaetz to prevent this type of, unfair windfalls from occurring. This is nuts though. I mean,
Great point from Ravana. I want to jump in on that. On this show, we've talked about frequently the devils we're willing to work with and why. And, any of them, frankly. I'll work with Donald Trump to get his cohorts, sure. And then I'll turn around and I'll work with his cohorts to get him. I'll shake hands with a resurrected Genghis Khan if it means that I can get rid of the worst elements of the U.S. government. I'm so glad that Ravana pointed that out. Yeah, AOC happily worked with Gates because they are in agreement here. For clarity, Gates is here because he's he knows he will never be a darling of the donor class. He knows he can't swim in those waters. He's too gross for them. He's too much of an embarrassment. He's too nouveau riche for them. There's a big problem with that. The old veau riche, old money versus new, old power versus new. There's a lot of butting of heads because the new people coming to power don't take the culture with them of the old ways. F them both, I say, and AOC, yeah, keep working with Gates on this. Work with whoever you want. If they are, I don't care what their reputation is. I care about what their actions will be. If you can get a vote to ban stock trading in Congress, you should absolutely take it.
138.9%. You weren't even trying to pretend you weren't cheating the stock market.
True.
You didn't care how bad this would make you look.
True.
It's
terrible. Entry number 1 for clip of the week, Power Report talking about congressional stock trading, specifically Brian Higgins with his outperforming the SPY by 238%. Wow. He's making Nancy Pelosi blush there, and a great point by Ray Vana. He's not even. I'm sure it doesn't even occur to him to try to slow his roll a little bit, to do it subtly, because they just understand there's an oligarchic class. In this country, leadership also comes with immunity from the law, limited, but still immunity from the law, as long as you don't embarrass everybody. And, of course, instant riches. We have systems built into the government for thieving from all of us. Our leaders have an unfair advantage in the stock market, and we have allowed ourselves to be conned into pretending like that's okay. But the good news is, and I do really want to stress this. The good news is, it is not a partisan issue to hate that. It is not a partisan issue to want to get rid of that. So we should make it a thing that we talk about at the dinner table, at the lunch table at work, wherever your slave quarters are located. We should discuss breaking our chains by defunding the oligarchs. Not even an accurate use of the word oligarch, but I'm fine with it. Well, let's say hello to folks. Hello, Pinkerbell. Good to see you, Looney Tunes. Hello there. Good to see you as well. I want to give a better version of the report on school shootings I did yesterday. So here's my better take. Thankfully, only 2 children were shot to death at school yesterday. The 5 other children who were shot will survive their wounds, and the principal who was shot will survive their wounds as well. It is notable that this shooting was done with a pistol and a shotgun, as opposed to Uvalde, where an assault rifle was used to blow 19 children to pieces, while law enforcement held their screaming parents back. This was not an assault rifle shooting, so again, thankfully, only 2 children were shot to death at school yesterday, and one of them was the shooter themselves. So really got off luckily there. Meanwhile, over in Canada, where people are worth a damn, there were no school massacres because they know how to run a country. Ditto for Australia and England. We might want to take a page from their book. if we want to hold our heads high, if we want to be worth a damn, if we want to be able to say that our children matter to us, we should pick any of those countries, literally any, and just do with guns whatever it is they do. Copy them completely. And if we want to work our way back to a distinctly American feeling, clownish view of guns, then we can. And every time we have a school massacre, we should reset and go back to doing it the way better countries conduct themselves. Yeah, I just wanted to do a real quick retake of that. Oh, Looney Tunes. I'm not ignoring Jake. I'm currently modding at this time for Left of the Box. Well, thank you for adding to the concurrent viewers. I appreciate that. It gives me a boost. Domenico, good to see you, my friend. Hello. Oh, all right. Well, we have another clip coming up, and I'm going to set that up now. There we go. This one is going to be familiar to y'all, but I choose to play it anyway because Matt clipped the show, and it has now dawned on me that we should probably all be clipping the show, but it's glass houses until I do it myself. So I'm going to take my lumps. Oh, where did you go? There we go. Let's record this puppy. Clip of the week number 2. We're looking at Left Past 10 as clipped by the Letterhack. This was a discussion which we're going to have a lot of, and we should be having a lot of. And I encourage you all, especially if you disagree with me, to call in when we do call-in shows and write in the chat as you feel it. It's a discussion we should be having. It comes down to, are we looking at electoral politics correctly? How many election cycles are we going to go through with essentially either a degradation of American life or a stalemate? Either a pause on the downgrading of all of our lives or an active downgrading of all of our lives, but never improving. Never, ever improving. And basically universally in terms of foreign policy, being international terrorists. How are we going to break this? Well, it was discussed on Left Past 10. Let's have a look.
You know how, like, our taxes go to weapons manufacturing and then they sell those weapons to somewhere else who modifies them and sells them to somebody else? And I'm like, okay, well, hold on, back up, though. The American taxpayer, and I know I'm oversimplifying, but the American taxpayer pays for weapons to be manufactured in defense, and then we sell them. Where's my return on investment? Where's that money even go?
Yeah,
Because I
it
know
went
you're
to the
not selling them
pothole.
for, but they're not selling them for cost, right?
No, it's all for. I mean, that's the military-industrial
It's like-
complex. That's what it
Yeah,
does.
that's what I mean.
That's why.
So I didn't wedge this in, but I did want to clarify on that specific point. What we do, and this is my understanding as someone who was not in the military and has never purchased weapons for the military and certainly was never involved in foreign relations in any way, shape, or form beyond the strip clubs in Windsor. My understanding nonetheless is this. There are expiration dates on basically everything that we use in our military, and Some of it's because we want to stay ahead of the technological curve. We want to have the most advanced stuff, which means we want the stuff we had last year that people have had a full year to, or 10 years ago, that people have had a full decade to construct countermeasures for. We want the same thing done that's able to avoid those countermeasures, counter the countermeasures, and so on and so forth until we eventually, hopefully, just blow the whole planet up. What we do, though, with the old stuff is give it to our allies. And it's not a gift. They buy it in the form of a loan from us. That's how we make them allies. It's partially because we help them out of a jam. We give them the killing tools necessary to just slaughter thousands, just thousands of human beings. And then, which by the way, it's awful. I just want to be clear about that, but I'm not always against it. I'm very for it. In Ukraine, for example, they should slaughter the thousands of invaders pouring into their country. That's a good slaughter. The only one, though, that's currently happening. Mostly, we do evil with it. And when we give these horrifying sci-fi nightmares to places, and they buy them with an IOU, we then turn around and pay our defense contractors, so private companies, to build us newer, better toys. So that's just a point of clarification. That is what's happening there. Again, I'm not signing off on it. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not even saying it's bad at this moment. I'm setting aside the way I feel about it and just explaining my understanding of what is actually happening. That's what's happening. We're giving our old iPhone to a buddy. Not even really. We're giving our old iPhone to somebody who we think we can gain something from in the future because they're desperate for a phone now, except instead of calling people, it blows them up.
That's why the war machine keeps churning.
Yeah.
But like
Our American jobs.
Ha!
a few
Gotta
days
work
ago,
for
there
Boeing
was
out there in the West.
like right on the last day of December, for the second time of December, the Biden administration bypassed Congress to approve an emergency weapons sale to Israel.
Yeah,
And Israel, the overwhelming majority of their military equipment is manufactured in the United States and sold to them and then modified over there.
Yep.
Which we know they product test on Palestinians, right? And then sell it off. And get this. I just made note of this because I looked this up. This is from Al Jazeera, November 2023. A report from Amnesty International in 2019 noted that the whole process by which Israel sells arms is shrouded in secrecy with no documentation of sales. One cannot know when these arms were sold, by which company, and how many, and so on. Amnesty found that Israeli companies exported weapons which reached their destination after a series of transactions, thereby skirting international monitoring.
So who are they
Why are
selling
we-
weapons to?
Well, why
Everybody,
the fuck are
but
we
all
giving them the
countries
weapons
are.
to...
To sell
Those
if
are-
they're doing that?
There is an answer. It's just not sufficient. The answer is that just like we want the versions that get around the countermeasures to the older versions, they're just one peg down. They want what is newer to them to get around the countermeasures that have been come up with by the last version they were using. And they're just the junior US. They're doing the exact same thing we are. Although it's worth pointing out the things that Israel really excels at selling is, interestingly enough, surveillance technology. That's a fun, creepy thing. All right, that's too much Jake on the screen. We're going to power through the rest of this.
Those weapons were, and I hate that I'm sitting here going, those were our weapons, because my point is we shouldn't be making weapons, but like,
Is that the only country we supply? Because I mean, they
Well,
all
but
supply
that's what
each
I'm
other.
saying.
But it's a major one.
They're nefariously moving them to who knows where. So we're obviously supplying all kinds of people with weapons,
My
and
God.
yeah, and
We're
so
the number one weapons manufacturer in the world.
Yeah, we are. We're
yeah.
sure.
That's the one. We're
Understatement of the century. Let me not interrupt Adrian Vixen.
number one at something.
All right, let me talk about some comments. Pinker Bell, we export misery, culture, and misery. Yeah. Yeah. A really good point, though. Aren't Russian troops mostly young conscripts? The real power players responsible for the war are far away from it. Yes and no. Russian troops are not... there are like factions of Russian troops. There are conscripts that are just young people that got tricked. There are prisoners who had to choose between, the gulag, as they say, or fighting. And there's the most effective of them. Their veteran forces are mercenaries, ironically trained in Russia and then leaving the official Ministry of Defense and working for groups like Wagner. I'm not happy that I'm in favor of killing them. Not going to mince words about it. That is what I'm in favor of. I wish desperately I could think of, not even forget even us as a species doing it, but I wish desperately that I could think of another way to stop them from slaughtering Ukrainians. But it's frankly no different for me than the situation in Gaza is right now. I would rather those weapons, and this is going to be a little controversial, hold on to your butts, but they're my sincere feelings. It's also worth noting it's irrelevant because it won't happen, but my sincere feelings nonetheless. I would rather the weapons that we have, that we're sending for the IDF to use, be used against the IDF. Because right now, the Israeli Defense Force is massacring civilians. And the same functional thing, the killing of civilians who want no fight. They just want to go about their lives. That's happening in Ukraine too, and what I would really prefer is for Netanyahu and Putin to do the math and say, what I'm doing right now not only won't work, but it will result in my personal future, me the dictator, being worse. If you have an idea, I want to hear it, because I would love to be pushing for something different. With at least I can vote. I can say we should vote to disarm the IDF of our guns. But when it comes to the conscripts, who are usually pushed into the worst in order to soften up resistance before the veterans are sent in, I got nothing. But I'm open to suggestions for sure.
We're
So
on
what
that
irritates
axis,
me
baby.
more and more.
Hey, wait a minute. Whoa, slow your roll there, my friend. We're
Oh.
also the place that imprisons people the most.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. We don't like bad
number
guys.
one in imprisonment and
Jose.
war machine.
Yeah, we're evil murderers.
We
We're
have
doing
so much
great.
freedom.
Yeah, land of the free.
makes
y'all.
me-
Freedom.
Yeah, land of the free. The irony there. God.
Just makes me so upset when people keep making lists of Biden's accomplishments and being like, he is kicking ass. And I'm like, that one thing with the
wow.
weapons is enough for me to be like, fuck them. Fuck
For
them
a
all.
little bit.
Like, I
Nah,
can't.
that's a terrible way
Okay,
to look at it.
well-
I say,
Well, it is
No,
when
but-
there's
with the
Project
utmost love.
2025
But-
breathing down our neck. We're so
Okay.
fucked. Sorry.
Hold on. You guys are talking
Fair.
about the immediate. I'm talking
long
about this is
term.
not what we should be focused on overall. Yes, immediately, you're right. We have to stay the course. We have to make certain decisions immediately, right?
That are horrible. Mm-hmm.
Go back the last 6 presidents or just 6 presidential elections. Who proposed a theory of change in their candidacy on the campaign trail? Then tell me how it was enacted when they were in office. And then tell me if it was or wasn't undone by the next guy, right? You see what I'm saying?
Every
It's like
time. Mm-hmm.
it's like we're talking about immediate decisions that need to be made, but the overall results are never there. And any president, because I remember Trump saying, of course I sold that stuff to Israel. We're making money. Come on, it's a deal. It's a great deal. We're making lots of money. And I'm like, people love that.
Who's
But where's
we,
that go?
motherfucker?
Where's that money go?
I do think
I don't know. It
when
irritates
we-
the
when
shit
we-
out of me.
when we talk what's wrong with America and we leap to the presidency, I think we're falling for the scam. I think
Yeah.
I think beginning if you're going to go with politics, if you want genuine change that's going to last and actually get the thing that matters, legislation passed, House and Senate, those are where you focus, and to ensure that there is safeguards for people who are need protection from, I'm sorry, evil Republicans. You concentrate on the states and you make sure you've got a sane governor.
This is my thing,
And
though, is that they want us to, and I apologize for interrupting. They want us to focus on the Super Bowl, right? They want us to be like,
yes,
Right, the big
the
one.
2024, it's a president. Look at the primers. We got debates, man. There
We're
is
looking at the little
horrible
guys here.
stuff happening all the time, everywhere, and so that's why I say, like, we're not. I would never defend Biden, but I'm gonna vote for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
well,
Like David
and
says.
meanwhile, we have to continue to hold
Fight
everyone
this.
accountable, and
Yeah.
it's difficult to do when it comes to these guys are like with campaigns making billions of dollars, right? And they're like bragging about, look how much money we raised. Now we can be on TV, and then people will vote
Look
for
how
us without
corrupt we
knowing
are.
what we really stand for, right? And we have crony
Either.
capitalism, and it's
Well,
beautiful.
the whole
but
system.
but I think that's why we have to continue to remind everyone that this is not an accomplishment. This is not a win. Do you know what I mean?
Anyone
Like
drafting a list of Biden's accomplishments probably.
people, and I
Right,
think that's
Bernie
worth
said it.
addressing. I think that
oh, for sure.
here's my take,
Put the message.
and
up
I'll
on
just come at
screen.
it from the different kinds of progressives that there are. There are progressives, and this is, again, I'm just oversimplifying everything tonight, but we don't have this kind of time. But like, there's progressives who are like, tear it down and start over. And then there's progressives like myself
work.
that are like, some of these things we can rework. And you can change from inside the system. We need a caucus. We need to vote for a certain party because that's where our guys are. We have people that we could get into who don't take corporate PAC money, who don't take funding from the same people that that are funding the Republicans, right? We could get the right people into office by keeping the main party in power. And so that's why you have to keep voting a certain way. That's how I look at it. How do you guys look at it?
Well, how long? I mean, I think it's a long struggle. I think we've been in this struggle, but we don't
We
have.
should find another way.
We don't
honestly.
have one person, but nobody's getting behind one alternative candidate. There's Marianne Williamson. There's RFK. There's
Claudia de la Cruz.
yeah. There's another guy now. There's some congressman they're trying to put up. There's not going to be debates on the left side because they've already anointed Joe Biden.
But like down the line, down the line.
Actual
like,
cloud,
or-
I don't know.
I go
I-
back
yeah,
to
go
the
ahead.
education.
I think that your politics can't stop at voting.
No.
And I think that voting is just the bare minimum of civic engagement that you can do. and that if you aren't a person who is fighting for a revolution and you think that you can work to reform the systems, there are ways in which you need to be actually pushing for that, and actively doing the work on the ground, organizing in your community, setting up food banks, like setting up mutual aid funds with your network of people. Even online you can do it, so there's so many things that you need to do as like personal steps of activism that I think don't have anything to do with voting. And why we vote for these people, I mean, it's like, okay, do you want fascist light or fascist heavy? Those are your choices.
I have a slightly different view. I mean, I do agree. It bugs me that I didn't have a better response, but here it is. Generally, with what you're saying, it's lesser of two evils argument, and it's not wrong given our current situation.
I just think they're both liberal, and I think liberals are fascists.
I
don't know if I agree either 100%, but
I think
that's
what we're
where
dealing
good
with
conversation comes
in the immediate, and the reason we still participate in the immediate is because there is an other side, and the other side wants terrible things to happen.
Yeah.
And us failing to compete means a guaranteed loss. Period. End of story, as Sam Cedar would say. Wish I would have been more direct. There's too many folks, too many cooks in that particular kitchen not to get your point out quick. We're still, I'm still adjusting to such a format. Everybody else is taking it to like a fish to water. But nonetheless, I enjoyed that conversation quite a bit. And I would only add that we have, in my estimation, a chance to lose some ground gained in 2024 by worrying about the presidential election. I think if we try to switch candidates, we are likely to just wind up with a Republican. I truly don't even think Trump. I just think a Republican, and that Republican will be as bad or worse than Trump because they might actually be competent, and they are all evil. But more to the point of progress, I think we're missing when we spend all this energy talking about the presidency in a year where there's a Democratic incumbent. I think we're missing the real opportunity. The real opportunity is to expand in the House and Senate. I think we should be pouring our effort. When we are talking about electoral politics, that is where our effort should be at the moment. Give us a far-left Congress. Send a message to Biden. Force him to be the guy that vetoes progressive bills with the understanding that he can't veto the same bill twice. So he can embarrass himself and then sign it, or he can just sign it. That is how we brute force this. That is the revolution done peacefully. But I also think that Matt has the best answer. I don't think we can afford to ignore electoral politics, but he does have the best answer for how do we free ourselves of the need for these people, and that is by forcing the matter, whatever that particular issue is to you, forcing it in a different way, and that is through grabbing hold of the other levers of power, mainly through unionization. This is a capitalist-run country, so get control of the capital. Stop the rich's ability to generate more riches for themselves by having the workers unite. A good clip. I'm glad Matt had the forethought to clip some of that out. I will be trying to remember to do that myself. have a look at some comments here. I saw some I want to read. Wireless Mike, hello to you. Good to see you. Pinkerbell saying, God, everything about the 2024 election sucks. It's physically draining how much it sucks. True, but consider this. We have the ability. If you're in a negative spot, I don't think, like emotionally, I don't personally think it works very often to try to positive your way out of it. Hear me out. I feel that it helps to negative your way out of it as long as it's productive. Which is all to say that I would view it less about who you are going to support, who you are going to raise up, and look at it instead as who are you going to take down? Who would you like to never hear from again? We have a chance to get rid of Boebert. We already got rid of Santos. We're about to have a re-election, or in February, a special election. I don't know what they call it. We could reduce the score of the Republicans because they are so incompetent they can't even hold on to their seats. That's how incompetent these fools are. So, this year, we have an opportunity to hurt some motherfuckers. Let's hurt them. Let's hurt them real bad. Let's replace as many folks in Texas as we can. You're in a target-rich environment there, my friend. You have an attorney general who's just barely staying out of prison, and you've got a governor who can't keep the lights on. You've got representatives who don't know how biology works. You've got a lot of targets. I've got plenty in my own state that need ousting, including Jack Bergman, who's disgracing the Upper Peninsula. But my point only being, look forward to the sorrow you can cause some real filthy bastards. Pinkerbell, yeah, that's where my head is at. Yeah, fair. What did Elaine say? I saw Elaine Sharp. Hi, Elaine, by the way. Physiotherapy. Exercises are kicking your butt today. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the tacos and cookies. Tinkerbell, Texas is living in the upside down. Yeah, but you're, at the same time, I don't know if, it's probably hard where you are right now to appreciate this, but you're giving hope to a lot of folks around the country. Those that watch these things, perhaps too closely because we can delude ourselves, I'll admit that, but there appears to be a sea change in Texas. Imagine if California had like a 10% chance of going red this year. How terrified would we be? I'm already not positive that Biden's going to win the election. I don't know that Trump is even going to be the guy. Right now it looks like he will be, but give it some time. Who knows? But there's a real chance that in Texas there's going to be a couple of shocking news stories about election results 1 year, and then 2 years or 4 years later, a jaw-dropping sea change. All you really need is one competent lefty in a position of power, and you will have a cultural shift happening all around you. I'll say this, and Pink, it's an unfair thing to put on you. Mike, I'm going to put the same unfair thing on you as well. Like you two, specifically, because of where the areas you guys are in. To keep an eye out for issues that far-right people care about, actual real things that they care about, that we could cater to. Because I'll tell you, if it's a real issue and they give a damn, there's a progressive answer for it. And I think it is long past time for us to have a new kind of progressive out and about representing the cause. And we will have to build that. We'll have to build a progressive which is taken seriously every time they open their mouth, as opposed to the gauged ears and what are the other stereotypes? Purple hair and what have you. In other words, the crowd I love hanging out with. Not because there's anything wrong with having a fanciful look about you, just because people expect it already. If we were all wearing suits and ties right now, I would say gauge your ears and dye your hair and come at it from an angle they're not expecting. But it's not aesthetic mainly that I'm talking about. It's a way of discussing politics as issues first. And when you point to a candidate and say this person supports what we've just discussed. Oh, they're running as a Democrat? Yeah. Much like you, I don't give a fuck about either of these parties. I think they are both the enemy. And if we can get anybody, when you're talking to them, and if you can get anybody in office, whatever they call themselves, that supports these things that you and I have just discussed, we should. Good. Take money from these people we are mostly against. This candidate alone that I'm pitching to you, sir or ma'am. This is the candidate that will, and then whatever those issues are. So I think the main one is going to be the oligarchy. I think the main one is going to be congressional stock trading and getting bribes from fill in your boogeyman, George Soros, the Koch brother, whoever. But it's nonetheless a serious problem, and I think we can get some across the aisle agreement. Again, the point, I should say, I didn't say it to begin with. So the point is not to get a bunch of people who were strong MAGA supporters voting for your choice for president. It's to get them to not vote straight ticket. It's to get them to put some surprises in office. Locally, I think you'll find you're going to have the easiest time with that. Locally, if you can get them to vote for a progressive mayor or a city council that's progressive, you'll find that the improvements they make to your town wind up selling the broad concept for you. So Mike, Pink, both of you, keep your eyes out. What are some issues that they care about that we could address? Good to see you, Obsessive Audio. Hello. Tinkerbell, the thing you open the show with is the conversation starter for national politics. Everyone hates money, the money in D.C. Local issues will be different everywhere. True. Although, no, you're just right. Yeah. Money out of politics. That we can do. We also have the benefit there of getting them to write the people they elected. And even though those people will then not vote the way they want them to, the constituents that wrote them may be interested to see that the people they voted for don't listen to them. Ooh. Now, what will that do to their loyalty? I gotta wonder. Probably the same thing it's done to our loyalty with Democrats, which is to say, none remains nor should it. I cannot wait. Gang, I hope it comes to pass. There is no promise of this, but I hope it comes to pass that we find ourselves not too long from now in a time where the Democrats are the conservative party. Wouldn't all this make so much more sense if there just were no Republicans and it was progressives versus Democrats? Wouldn't all the arguments we're making make a lot more sense? I think a lot of the hate we experience right now comes from the fact that we have to be allied with people. Did I say that correctly? We have to be allies with people that we don't agree with on most things. It's just the fact that, we want to live in a democracy at this point. Got a third and final clip for your consideration for Clip of the Week. That's Brian Tyler Cohen, Foxy's future ex-husband. It took an act of willpower not to lead the show with this, because I hate Donald Trump. I hate him so much, and I like when he suffers. And now we're going to find out if he'll suffer more. Here's Brian Tyler Cohen with the news.
News here, and this is easily one of the biggest Supreme Court cases of our lifetimes. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear the case that will decide whether or not Donald Trump is eligible for Colorado's primary ballot after he was disqualified by that state's Supreme Court. What this means is that we will get a definitive answer from the U.S. Supreme Court after scattershot rulings going in both directions in states across the country as to whether the insurrection clause in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution will be upheld. In Colorado and Maine, for example, Trump has already been disqualified from the primary ballot, while in
Good way to put it. We're really not seeing whether or not this was a correct use of the 14th Amendment. We're seeing whether or not we're going to have the balls to follow the laws that we put down into the books when it's uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable for you or me. It would just be uncomfortable for the judges, because they go to dinner parties with these people and they don't want to have an awkward what's a fancy thing, shrimp cocktail. They don't want to be looking across the shrimp cocktail trough at a mournful Melania. I mean, okay, Melania would be celebrating, but a mournful Donald Trump Jr. Now that's too awkward. So that's what we're going to see.
Michigan and California, he's been allowed to remain on the ballot. The decision from the U.S. Supreme Court will set a national standard and determine once and for all whether or not Donald Trump will be allowed to appear on the 2024 ballot, or whether he'll be disqualified in accordance with the Constitution. And look, I obviously understand.
Now, you know what? I'm not done. Bridget McCormick, what the fuck? What the McCormick? Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court. I interviewed that lady like 4 times, and she was fantastic. She was genuinely trying to make the courts more fair to the powerless. I was so into Bridget McCormick, and she fucked me. She fucked us all. I don't know what's wrong with the Michigan Supreme Court. I don't.
Gravity of disqualifying the GOP's leading nominee from the ballot in an election year. But I support this disqualification because I also understand the gravity of ignoring the plain text of the U.S. Constitution, which states that no American who's engaged in insurrection or given aid or comfort to those who've engaged in insurrection are eligible to hold office. And so in the same way that no American who's under the age of 35 or who's not a natural-born citizen can be president, no insurrectionist is eligible to be president either. And ignoring the plain text of the Constitution to allow Trump on the ballot anyway sends the message that he is above the Constitution, that he is above the law, that he isn't subject to the same rules as everyone else, and that is effectively making him a dictator, because it would put him above the Constitution that the rest of our country's elected officials have to follow. Clearly put, that is what's at stake if the Supreme Court rules to allow him to appear on the ballot in 2024. And that's a point that was laid out perfectly by voting rights attorney and my Democracy Watch co-host Mark Elias.
The Supreme Court has to wrestle with whether or not there is a line that can be crossed by the president for which there are consequences. If the U.S. Supreme
First of all, I love me some Brian Tyler Cohen. I like the structure of the stuff he does. Second of all, get him Mark Elias. Yeah, where this is our Magna Carta moment. Is the king subject to the same laws as us? Or can we just hand the president a meat cleaver and say, you're president now, run around the country, hack to death whoever you want? That's what it comes down to.
The court says there is no line that can be crossed by the president and still have there be consequences. That will have profound consequences for the future. I mean, it means that presidents can commit open, flagrant crimes. You know, I read someone joked, does this mean that Joe Biden could kidnap Donald Trump and have him held hostage?
Yeah.
You know, and he can't be criminally prosecuted. He can't be judged there's just no consequences. So
No. If first of all, Biden actually attempts to exercise, if the Supreme Court comes back and says, no, Trump can still run. It doesn't matter that he tried a coup. Biden, because there is an what do you call it? A decree, a missive, a little note in the margins from the Office of Legal Counsel of the Justice Department that says you cannot prosecute a sitting president. Again, you and I didn't vote on this. Our betters just decided it was so. Our rulers said that's how it will be. That means Biden can't be charged with anything. So, and if he hasn't been charged and convicted, then the Supreme Court will be saying nothing you can do. You got to let him stay on the ballot. So what Biden should do, if Trump gets off the hook in this way, is kick down Trump's door and grab that meat cleaver, hack him to death, chop him up into little bitty bits, and then put those in a trash bag and then toss those into the ocean. It's just smart political strategy. That's the way they will have decided that the government can run. And since those are the rules that Republicans will have fought hard to establish, we should follow them to the letter. And Biden should hack Trump to death with a meat cleaver. Personally, I don't want to hear that he had some Secret Service guy do it. No, personally, be a man, show up. Let me not be sexist. Be an adult. Take the responsibility yourself. Show up at Mar-a-Lago with the meat cleaver and hack Trump to death with it.
So what Donald Trump is arguing for in this case, like the immunity case, is lawlessness. It is for allowing a president to do anything, in this case, to incite a violent insurrection, to give aid and comfort to people who are trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. And look, Brian, we fought a civil war over this. The Congress and the states after the Civil War purposely, intentionally put this provision in the Constitution to prevent another situation in which a demagogue like Donald Trump threatens the fate of our country and our constitutional order. And if the Supreme Court says that's too old, that's too novel, that doesn't apply anymore, just imagine what we will see out of Donald Trump in the future.
And of course, to see more of Mark and myself and our series Democracy Watch, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Now, Trump's defense rests on this absurd notion that the insurrection ban doesn't apply to presidents. And I posed this exact question to Jamie Raskin, who was a constitutional law professor before becoming Congress's preeminent constitutional scholar, and here's what he had to say about the claim that the insurrection ban only applies to everyone else except the President of the United States.
I totally do not agree with that. You would have to believe that the framers of the 14th Amendment specifically banned people from becoming electors for president and vice president, that is, being in the electoral college, but not banning the president himself.
Just a brief side note. My God, Jamie Raskin, recovering from cancer very, very well. It is my hope that continues. He looks fantastic.
Or herself. It just makes no sense. The president is the person who, as we saw on January 6, 2021, poses the most danger if he decides to overthrow the constitutional order and seize the presidency. So there's no textual exclusion for the president. The language is written in as comprehensive a way as possible. And it seems clear to me that the framers of the 14th Amendment wanted to sweep in the president along with members of Congress, members of the Electoral College, and any other civil or military office. It just seems sweeping and comprehensive. And there would be no logic for saying that it shouldn't apply to the president when the president is potentially the most dangerous actor and has the resources at his disposal as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces in times of insurrection and in times of war. So I don't agree with that. I do think that Judge Wallace did reason properly when it came to Trump having actually participated in insurrection. And that's just an airtight and detailed and comprehensive part of the opinion. And she...
Couple of notes, because these are cropping up and they're all small things, so I just want to get them out there. Poor Jamie Raskin. Let's. He's gone through enough in life.
Herself says.
There we go. Number one, it was an insurrection. Let's just be clear. There's no question about that at all. People outside of our country, institutes which measure coups. Let me try that again. COUPS. Coups. Declared it that immediately. I believe the current term is a self-coup. That's when the person in power tries to stay in power by overthrowing the government. That's what Trump appears to have been a part of. Thing number two, you could definitely make a case, as in like an argument, that it might have been that. It might have been that. But Trump wasn't leading it. Frankly, that's why we should have done everything that's happening in the courts right now a year ago. That's why Merrick Garland ought to be fired. By the way, now's a fine time to fire him and replace him with somebody else. I know it sounds crazy, right? But I mean, he's specifically not in charge of anything. Replace him with a temporary person like Dana Nessel. And then eventually, the Attorney General, in my opinion, should either be Letitia James or, I was going to say Fani Willis, but I just think Letitia James, frankly. I know, sounds crazy, but I think in terms of managing a large... Anyway, other thing. The court system in the U.S. says it is one way, and it functions another. It says, well, we just look at the law, and we just do what the law says. We just make sure the law is being followed. But what really is happening is they look at the law, and they look at all of us, and they look at what happened, and they decide, how best should the law be applied now? What should we say the law says based on everything that's happening? That's what really happens. So, I want them to look at the law that says you can't have a traitor running for office. Look at the traitor and look at us who are out of patience and really worry about what's going to happen if they let that traitor run. To really be nervous about what we're going to do. Now, we're lefties, and we traditionally show our distaste in what I feel is the most effective way. We protest. We embarrass. I think that is 1,000 times more effective than breaking the law. Not because it's immoral to break the law, but because the people who would be embarrassed cannot be embarrassed by people that can be labeled as criminals. It's that simple. If they see that, oh, my opposition is in the category of bad guys, then it just doesn't work. If you have too many people in your ranks who regularly break the law, and this is partially why I'm kind of down on myself for being so loose with the rhetoric. If you have too many people, then you'll all just be classified as lawbreakers, and that will be the end of the story. So they should see protests, pre-protests. They should see demonstrations now for our outrage over the fact that this guy isn't already in prison. And then people will come to us and say, oh, wait, the law doesn't work like that. You need to do all these other things. And say, I don't care. I'm looking at the calendar. I'm looking at when the crime was done to me and my family. And I'm furious. They should see the pot boiling over. That's how you affect that outcome. You can do it right now if you want. You absolutely can.
That, it might sound preposterous to say that it shouldn't cover the president, but that was her reading. And it's all based on the idea that the president takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, whereas other people take an oath to support the Constitution. And Section 3 says that nobody shall hold an office who has previously taken oath to support the Constitution. And so that's a very thin reed to hang it on. Obviously, swearing to uphold and defend the Constitution is swearing to support the Constitution.
Right. Well, can you talk about why Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was put in place originally? Because I think the history here is especially important.
Yeah, I mean, the history is revealing. This is right after the Civil War. It's during the Reconstruction period. There were Confederates all over the South, former Confederates, who were planning a restoration of their power and wanted to get back into office. And originally, the legislative history is fascinating because originally the House wrote a Section 3 that was far more sweeping, and it said that anybody who participated in insurrection shall not be allowed to hold office or vote again at all. And when it got over the Senate, they said that is way too broad. We want to zero in on the bullseye core of people who really pose the greatest danger to the republic. And so they said, we're not going to make it about suffrage and franchise. We'll make it about holding office, and it will only be those people who actually held office before, swore an oath, and then violated the oath by engaging in insurrection or rebellion. So you can see how it got drastically whittled down. But Donald Trump is right there in the center of the bullseye core.
So if the whole point of this provision in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was to protect this country by barring those who had engaged in insurrection from serving, why would they want to include a loophole excluding only the most powerful person in the country? It makes no sense on its face and is a testament to the tenuousness of the Trump team's arguments that all they have is some tortured and irrational interpretation of a provision that was literally put in place to protect this country from someone exactly like Donald Trump. And finally, it's worth discussing the fact that this is being decided by a 6-3 conservative court, a third of which was appointed by the subject of this case himself, Donald Trump. And I know that the conventional wisdom may be that it's already predetermined how the court will rule. And look, that may very well be the case. But for those naysayers and critics out there, I'd suggest that you heed the words of Mark Elias, who explains quite clearly how our submission to the right actually lets them off the hook and how we need to apply pressure even when all hope might seem lost. There's a begrudging or cynical acceptance from most people on the left that once this thing gets to the U.S. Supreme Court anyway, with its 6-3 composition, that they're going to rule in favor of Donald Trump being reinstated on the ballot. Do you share that belief?
Yeah, so I hate this sort of cool cynicism that has erupted on the left. You know, hope is the tool of winners, and progressives are winners. Cynicism is the tool of despots and tyrants.
What a great way to put it. But I'm wholeheartedly with Elias on this front. My pet peeve amongst my allies, and I say this having done this myself plenty of times. So glass houses warning here, but is people that smugly fold their arms and go, nothing we do is going to work because the system's broken. Nailed it. Yeah. We're going to give up. Go fuck yourself. Fight every inch of the way. Even if you are going to lose badly, hurt them. Fight.
And so Donald Trump wants people on the left to be cynical because it buys into this frame. And look, you know, you and I have been doing these videos for a long time now, and we heard the same cynicism on the left about whether the U.S. Supreme Court would rule against Black voters in Alabama, whether the Supreme Court would rule against and adopt the fringe independent state legislature theory. And in the end, the Supreme Court did the right thing in those cases. And part of it was by lawyers. In those cases, it was my team, but lawyers, you know, and people like you not succumbing to the cynicism, but making the Supreme Court confront the law as it is, the Constitution as it is. So I really think it's a mistake to see so many people on the left just kind of buy into the sort of too cool for school cynicism of the Supreme Court's rigged against you.
So all eyes will now be on the U.S. Supreme Court, which will hear arguments from both sides starting on February 8th. And look for this case to be resolved quickly, given that primary elections will already be underway. And hopefully the Supreme Court decides to defer to the law and our Constitution over its fealty to the criminal who's currently got a stranglehold over the Republican Party.
Can your boy time it, or can he time it? So Brian Tyler Cohen putting up a great point there. Trump, or rather, you're putting in a great report. Trump is appealing to the Supreme Court. Yeah, it's very likely that they are, because they're a bunch of right-wing psychopaths teamed up with left-wing morons, or not even left-wing, centrist morons. It's very likely that it won't, that we're going to have Trump forced on the ballot. He usually doesn't get into places unless he's forced his way there. But nonetheless, we should make a stink about it. We should be in the comments section places, stating our opinions. Frankly, we should be showing up outside of the Supreme Court and saying, that motherfucker is a traitor. Every chance you have to be loud and grating about this, you should take. I don't want us to keep embarrassing ourselves in front of the other countries. I want us, God damn it, in the U.S., to not take this stuff passively. I see a lot of comments. I'm excited to read them. But first, I'm going to end this recording. Thank you if you're watching on the VOD. It helps grow the channel. Comment, please. And like the thing. And share. And get a tattoo of the logo. No. Oh. Okay. Let's read some comments here. We got Letterhack coming up. I saw something earlier from Wireless Mike. Great timing, Jake. Thank you. Deborah Kempthor. Raskin is a man that truly promotes hope through knowledge. Obsessive Audio. It's cross-border. Mike Roman, Roger Stone, Paul Alexander have all been up here stirring shit. Yeah. And in Brazil as well. God help us. Former Canada PM Stephen Harper has been working at it for years. That motherfucker, Stephen Harper. He's the George Bush of Canada. Thankfully, you guys didn't have a chance to get involved in a 20-year quagmire. But wow. I did there. Where? Oh, Letterhack. Good to see you, man. Speaking of, folks, after this, I'm going to be over on Letterhack's. No, I'm going to be in the chat at Letterhack's podcast. Let me word that. But yeah, he's been recording audiobooks. I'm into it. The Letterhack, dramatically, cool word. Dramatically and drastically combined. I do like that. Where's that other comment from Wireless Mike? Okay, so he was talking with Pink saying, but he's just trying not to act like an AG working on behalf of the president. He's letting the law do the work. It sucks, it's slow, but it's right. True, and we probably shouldn't waste any energy trying to replace him now. In fact, I withdraw what I said earlier in terms of replacing him. Not because he doesn't deserve it. I think he does deserve it, and I disagree with you in terms of him doing, I don't even fully. Let me just get to the main point. I withdraw even the suggestion that we should bother with Merrick Garland right now, because there's nothing, anything, any attorney general could do right now that would change the course in terms of Trump prosecutions. And by the way, good, we're on course. But after this, especially if we get Trump conviction, we shouldn't forget that this was done a year too late. And it's because of Merrick Garland's interference. He specifically was trying to not involve Trump. The first half of this show's existence, it's a year old now, this show. For the first 6 months was basically a you, Merrick Garland stream. And when we have the political cover, like if we are totally successful, if Trump's in prison, a Democrat is in the White House. Let's just say we get super lucky, and Biden gets somehow replaced with a lefty, and we have a blue House and Senate. If those three things are in place, then I'm going to turn around and say, all right, let's get rid of Merrick Garland. Let's make sure he does not get to be put in a history book as the guy that saved us, because he damn near got us all killed. He's a nightmare. All right, gang. Clip of the week time. We had clips from the Letterhack, Dan from the Internet, and Brian Tyler Cohen. Who won our clip of the week? Well, you'll find out after I hit the record button and say all that first part again. So if you have votes, put them in now. I'm supposed to be recording. It's time to reveal who is the clip of the week. That's right, we had clips from Dan from the Internet, the Letterhack, and Brian Tyler Cohen. We put it to our live audience to vote on a Friday evening. Who ended up winning? It was the Letterhack with Matt Strackbine. You have achieved the title of Wicked Clip of the Week. I'm assuming you'll need a moment to call your parents, but after that, take a victory lap, sir. You've earned it, and I don't know where else I'm going with this. Nonetheless, I agree. I think that was a good clip. It was from Left Past 10, and it was an interesting conversation on the effectiveness of electoral politics and how we should be viewing it. If you want to check out that clip, the link is, of course, in the description. It's a good one. Thank you for voting. I know I use weird inflection, but that's all I have. All right, let's read some comments, then we're going to wrap it up. There we go. The Letterhack sobbing uncontrollably. AC, hello. All right, I meant to text you like 3 times. Since you're here, I'm just gonna say this. How do you? 1, do you have time to get in touch? And 2, how do you want to? Do you want to text, call, or do like a video chat? I'm for video chat, generally speaking. On account of it's just what I'm set up for. But whatever. I got Discord works very well too. Do you want to get together on Discord? The point being, I have stuff I want to pitch to you now that I got Fight Night done. I think it'd be fun to do together. And you mentioned a type of show that we could do that I want to try doing. It sounds like fun. Let me know if you're down. I'll be on Discord, and I closed apparently my email tab, but I'm going to be opening that back up. Gang, in 10 minutes. Oh wait, we got one more. Somebody earlier was talking about the green screen. I think that was Obsessive Audio. Obsessive Audio, when I'm on that streaming service, they have a very terrible chroma key setting. It's blocky and it looks unprofessional. But the chroma key setting here is good, and so that's what I use here. So that's the answer to that question. It's my own technological limitations. What I should be doing is streaming from OBS to the streaming service, like you've seen the Twitch folks do. Okay, that's it, gang. We are going over to the Letterhack. Son of a gun. We're going. I'm gonna go over to the Letterhack stream, which I am now putting in the description. If you guys want to join me there, it'll be a delight to hang out in the chat. But if not, no worries. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake, and I'll see you next time.